The first thing you learn about water is that it remembers everything. Every drop that falls from Kepler's acid green sky carries the memory of what it's touched. Rust, bone, dreams dissolved in brine. I learned that lesson the hard way, same as most truths worth knowing. My name's Ezra Thorne, and I build boats on a world that's trying its damnedest to sink them. The workshop sits on stilts above Sorrow Bay, where the tide pools glow phosphorescent in the perpetual twilight. Most folks on Kepler 442b live in the floating cities, great metal islands that drift with the currents, always moving, always running from the storms. But I stay put. Got my reasons. I was sanding the hull of a fishing skiff when I first saw her, the ghost ship that would change everything. She came drifting through the morning mist like a fever dream, her sails hanging in tatters, her hull black as a preacher's coat. No engine sound, no running lights, just silence cutting through the water, like a blade through silk. Ships don't sail themselves on Kepler. The acid storms see to that, eating through metal and flesh alike. Yet here she was, moving against the wind, her bowsprit pointed straight at my dock like an accusing finger. I set down my sandpaper and walked to the edge of my platform. The boards creaked under my boots, good honest wood from the kelp forests, treated with sap that could turn away most of the rain. Below, the water lapped against the pilings with that peculiar sound water makes when it's hungry. The ship drew closer, and I could make out details that made my blood run cold. Her name was painted on the stern in letters that seemed to shift and writhe, Perdition's Gate. I knew that name. Every pirate, smuggler, and water rat in the sector knew it. Captain Mordecai Blackwater's ship, dead these past 5 years, along with her crew and her captain, lost in the maelstrom of Dis, with a hold full of plundered imperial gold. Yet here she was, real as the salt spray on my face. The ship glided to my dock with impossible grace, her hull barely kissing the worn wood. No one threw lines, no one dropped anchor, but she held position like she was tethered to the ocean floor by chains of intent. I stood there for a long moment, listening to the whisper of water against her hull. The smart thing would have been to go inside, lock the door, and pretend I'd never seen her. But I'd been a pirate once myself, back when the blood ran hot, and the horizon called louder than common sense. Curiosity was a hard habit to break. "Permission to come aboard?" I called out, though I felt foolish talking to an empty ship. The silence stretched like a held breath. Then, soft as a lover's whisper, came a voice from somewhere deep in her belly. Granted, I should have run then. Should have fired up my old skiff and made for the nearest floating city, fast as my engine could carry me. Instead, I grabbed the rope ladder that hung over her side and pulled myself up onto her deck. The wood beneath my feet was sound, despite the years underwater. Too sound. The brass fittings gleamed like they'd been polished that morning. Her sails, though torn, showed no sign of rot or decay. It was like she'd been preserved in amber, waiting. "Hello, Ezra?" I spun around, hand going instinctively to the plasma cutter on my belt. Standing by the mainmast was a figure I recognized, though he was paler than I remembered, his clothes dripping with seawater that never seemed to reach the deck. Captain Mordecai Blackwater himself. "You're dead," I said, stating the obvious like a fool. He smiled, and his teeth were pearls in the half-light. "Death's just another port of call, boy. Question is whether you stay or move on." He gestured to the ship around us. some of us got delayed. I'd served under Blackwater for 3 years, back when I was young and stupid, and thought the universe owed me something. He'd been a hard captain, but fair, the kind of man who'd share his last bottle of rum with the crew, but keel-haul you for stealing from the common fund. Seeing him now, translucent and wrong, made my chest tight. "What do you want, Captain?" Same thing I always wanted, to finish the job. He walked to the rail, his boots making no sound on the deck. "We were carrying more than gold when we went down, Ezra. Something the Imperials didn't want getting out. Something worth dying for." "You did die for it?" "No." His eyes, once blue as deep water, were now the color of storm clouds. "We died because of it. There's a difference." He led me to the hold, down stairs that creaked with memories of living wood. The cargo bay was flooded, green water sloshing against the bulkheads with each gentle sway of the ship. But floating in that water, somehow dry and untouched, were dozens of sealed crates marked with Imperial insignia. Weapons, I guessed. Information. Blackwater's voice echoed strangely in the enclosed space. Records of what they did to the outer colonies. Mass relocations, forced labor, genocide disguised as terraforming accidents. Proof that would topple governments and start wars. I stared at the crates, understanding dawning like a cold sunrise. "That's why you're here. You want me to finish what you started. The dead can't testify, Ezra, but the living can carry their words." A sound from above made us both look up, the distinctive whine of atmospheric engines cutting through the air. Through the porthole, I could see 3 Imperial patrol boats descending from the cloud layer, their hulls gleaming like silver bullets. "They've been tracking us," Blackwater said without surprise. "Following the ship's quantum signature across the void. They know what we carry. Then we run. Can't. The ship won't leave without payment." "What kind of payment?" He looked at me with those storm cloud eyes, and I saw the truth reflected there. The ship wasn't just haunted. It was hungry. It had traded death for purpose, and that purpose required fuel. The kind only the living could provide. "One life," he said simply. "One willing soul to join the crew. That's the price of passage." The engines grew louder. Through the porthole I could see Imperial Marines in their black armor rappelling down from the boats, their plasma rifles charged and ready. They'd be aboard in minutes. I thought about my workshop, my quiet life building boats for fishermen and traders. I thought about the floating cities and the people who lived there, unaware that their government was built on mass graves. I thought about the choice between comfortable silence and dangerous truth. "There's another way," I said. Blackwater raised an eyebrow. "Oh? We don't run. We fight." "With what?" "You're one man and I'm a ghost." I smiled, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. The old fire, the hunger for justice that had driven me to piracy in the first place. "You're not just any ghost, Captain. You're Mordecai Blackwater, the terror of the Outer Rim. And this isn't just any ship." Understanding dawned in his spectral features. The Perdition's gate was always more than wood and metal. She was your will made manifest, your desire for justice given form. I moved to the weapons locker, finding it still stocked with boarding axes and plasma cutters. "The question is, do you still have the will to fight?" The first Imperial Marine hit the deck above us with a metallic clang. Blackwater's form solidified, becoming more real, more present. The ship herself seemed to respond, her timbers groaning with renewed life. "Aye," he said, his voice carrying the old authority. "I do." What followed was less a battle than a reckoning. The Perdition's gate came alive under our feet, her deck tilting and rolling like a living thing, spilling Marines into the hungry water. Blackwater moved through them like a force of nature, his cutlass singing as it parted armor and bone. I fought beside him, my plasma cutter carving through Imperial tech like it was made of paper. But it was the ship herself that won the day. She rose from the water like a breaching whale, her hull shedding centuries of barnacles and decay. Her cannons, long silent, roared back to life, sending the patrol boats spinning into the storm-dark sky. When the smoke cleared, we stood alone on her deck, surrounded by the debris of Imperial ambition. "It's done," Blackwater said, but his voice was already fading. "The information will find its way to the right hands. Truth has a way of surfacing like bodies in water." He was becoming translucent again, his purpose fulfilled. "The ship will take you home, Ezra, back to your workshop, your quiet life." "What about you?" "I'm already home." He smiled, and for a moment he looked like the man I'd once followed across the void. "The dead don't get second chances, boy, but sometimes we get to set things right." The Perdition's gate began to sink then, not in defeat, but in completion. The water rose around us, but it was clean water now, free of acid and malice. As it reached my chest, I felt no fear, only a profound sense of peace. I woke on my dock, the morning sun warming my face. The ghost ship was gone, but floating in the water around my workshop were dozens of sealed crates, their Imperial markings gleaming in the light. I spent the next 3 days distributing their contents across the comm networks, watching as the truth spread like wildfire through the outer colonies. Governments fell, officials fled, and somewhere in the depths of space, I liked to think a dead pirate captain finally found his rest. The water remembers everything, they say. But sometimes, if you're lucky, it also knows how to let go. I went back to building boats after that, but they were different somehow. Stronger, more graceful, touched by something beyond mere craftsmanship. And sometimes, when the mist rolls in thick over Sorrow Bay, I swear I can see her out there in the distance. The Perdition's gate, sailing on toward whatever horizon calls to the restless dead. The first thing you learn about water is that it remembers everything. The second thing you learn is that some memories are worth keeping, and some are worth sharing, no matter the cost. My name's Ezra Thorne, and I build boats on a world that's trying its damnedest to sink them. But sometimes, just sometimes, the boats fight back.